Okay, it's been a while. I hope you have submitted all of your activities. Okay, and I hope you are all doing good. You're all doing fine. So we're still at chapter 2. Chapter 2 is money, time, relationships, and equivalence. Okay, so we're done with lesson 1 under chapter 2. Let's go to lesson 2. Lesson 2 deals with the concept of equivalence and continuous compounding and discrete payments. So basically, we have two lessons, sub lessons, I should say, in this lesson. No? The first, we have the concept of economic equivalence, and later on, we will discuss about continuous compounding and discrete payments. So, what is economic equivalence? So, the definition of economic equivalence is in your modules, no? Medyo mahaba. I think it's a paragraph. The definition, the explanation is quite long. But let me read you some parts of it. So, in economic analysis, equivalence means the state of being equal in value. So this is the principle we're going to apply later on in our analysis of cash flows. Okay. The state of being equal in value. So value, what do you mean by value? We have discussed the difference of amount and value. Okay. Although the both terms are associated, but amount is different from value, you know. Okay, or just because something is expensive doesn't mean it is valuable, no? Something can be expensive but not valuable. Okay. So pwedeng may halaga ka pero hindi ka mahalaga. Oh, ayan yung hugot natin this lesson na ito. Pwedeng may halaga pero hindi ka mahalaga, parang ikaw, no? So going back to our topic. Okay, the concept of equivalence would be applied in comparison of different cash flows. Okay. As we know from earlier lessons, money changes its value relative to time. No? For example, if you have 500,000 pesos now, okay, the amount is 500,000. So after 5 years, the amount is still 500,000, but the value would be decreased. No? Yung nabibili ng 500,000 mo, mas konti na nabibili niya after 5 years because the value, although they have the same amount, the value would be different. No? The purchasing power of your money, kung ilan yung nabibili niya, that's the purchasing power. Yung nabibili ng pera mo ngayon, hindi yun yung mabibili niya after some time. Okay, so because of many reasons, of course, because of inflation, no, yung pagtaas ng presyo ng mga bilihin, other factors, taxes also, no, so and others. So there are a lot of factors affecting the value of money, no. Later on, we will discuss some factors later on in our succeeding topics. Okay, so for now, we need to understand that value doesn't necessarily mean the amount, no, of money. So the equation of value is obtained by setting the sum of the values on a certain comparison or a focal date of one set of obligations equal to the sum of the values on the same date of another obligation. So medyo masyadong technical yung definition dun sa module. But when we apply the concept of equivalence, so for example, we have this cash flow. Okay. So when we apply the concept of equivalence, since we are dealing with value of money, so ang sinosolve natin usually is the value. For example, so meron kang cash flow ito, cash flow natin. So, at year 0, starting point natin is may 1,000 ka na inflow, and at this year 1, after 1 year, meron kang ulit natanggap na 1,000, of course. So, yung value ng 1,000, okay, after a year is not equal to the value of 1,000 now, no? So, if you want to solve for the value of this amount of money now, then we need to parang transfer natin yan. So, we go back in time. So, yung 1,000, we assign a certain focal date or focal point in the cash flow, no, diagram, and then solve for the equivalent value of this amount of money at that certain focal point. So that's why it's called economic equivalence, or the state of being equal in value. So ano yung value ng perang ito pag transfer ko now? Same is true with the succeeding inflows and outflows of money, okay, or investment or whatever. For example, itong 200, ano yung value niya at this focal point? So pwede rin naman na at the middle. So pwede mong i-transfer ito, yung 1,000. Ano yung value niya after 2 years? 1,000 after 1 year. You can choose any focal point or focal date in the cash flow diagram and solve for the equivalent value of that money or amount at that point. Now, this is very important in the economic analysis or cash flow, comparison of cash flow diagrams later on. So this is just an introduction of this concept. We will apply more of these concepts later on sa mga succeeding topics natin, just like annuities and mga ano pa yung ibang topics natin. Comparison of alternatives, no? So we need to know how this thing work, no? Yung economic equivalence. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So parang time travel lang, no? So we solve for the equivalent value of a certain amount to a certain focal point or focal date along the cash flow diagram. Now, to illustrate how to apply this concept of equivalence or economic equivalence, is try to solve the first problem in your module. Okay? Okay, number 1. If the interest rate is 8% per year, compounded annually, what is the equivalent present value of 500,000 pesos? Letter A, 1 year from today, and letter B, 5 years from today. So let's solve for letter A first. So 1 year from today. So what would be the present value of 500,000? Okay. 1 year from today. So we're solving for the present value. Compound interest ito, no? So it's equal to, so the future worth plus I is to negative n. Since we are solving for the present value, okay, so yung future amount natin is 500,000. So yan yung pera mo a year today. Ano yung equivalent value niya ngayon? Okay, so kung may 500,000 ka next year, ano yung value niya ngayon? So transfer natin, i-travel natin in time yung 500,000, ano yung value niya today, no? Although ayan, sunod. So we're solving for the present value. The future worth is 500,000. The interest rate per year, so per year yan, compounded annually din. So, yun na mismo yung interest natin. Plus 0 point. Interest should be in decimal form. Or negative to make sure this is in, the exponent is negative because, so from the future, transfer natin today. Okay, so that is negative. So 1 year. N natin is 1. Yan. So the present value of 500,000 1 year from today is equal to 462,962.963. So ito yung value niya today. Okay. So ibig sabihin yan, ito mabibili mo sa halagang 462,962, mabibili niya ngayon. Okay. After 1 year, bibilhin niya ang equivalent na amount na mabibili niya ngayon ay 500,000. Okay. So mabibili mo ngayon ng 462, bibilhin mo ng 500 next year. Yan. So that's the concept of the equation of value. Letter B. 5 years from today. So okay, so still we are solving for our focal point is at the present date or present condition. So we're solving for the present value of 500,000 5 years from now. So our future amount is 500,000, and the number of compounding is, since per year naman yan, annually, compounded annually, then 5 years. So n is 5. So p is equal to 500,000 1 plus the interest rate is 0.08 or 8%. Now we have 5 years. So the present value of 500,000 from now is equal to 340,291.5985. Okay. So, yan. Okay. So, ano ibig sabihin nito? Okay, yung 500,000 mo after 5 years, ito yung pera mo after 5 years, 500,000. So, ang mabibili niya that time is equivalent to yung mabibili ng 340,000 ngayon. Okay? So, medyo malaki yung difference, no? Medyo malaki yung interest rate natin na 8%. Okay? So, that's the concept of equivalence of value. So, magka-transfer lang tayo. Transfer ng value from one year or from one date to a certain focal date or focal point along the cash flow diagram. Okay? Next, let's solve for problem number 2. Okay, number 2. I think this will be the last example for this particular lesson. Okay. A man bought a lot. So, lote. A man bought a lot worth 1 million pesos if paid in cash. So, on the installment basis, he paid a down payment of 200,000, 300,000 at the end of 1 year, and 400,000 at the end of 3 years, and the final payment at the end of 5 years. What was the final payment? If kulang, hindi ko na isulat sa ano. Ito pa ako. What was the final payment? If the interest was 20%. Okay? So we are solving for the final payment. Let's say f sub 5. And let's try to draw the cash flow para meron tayong guide sa pag-analyze ng problem from the perspective of the borrower, or borrower ba yun? Yung bumili. buyer, I should say. From the perspective of the buyer. So, a man bought a lot. Siya yung kumuha. Borrower ba? O buyer? Yeah, I think so. Perspective of... Okay, so... sabi dito, pero hindi niya binayaran ng cash. Okay. So 1 million sana kapag cash, pero nag-avail siya ng installment basis. So sa installment basis, nagbayad siya ng down payment na 200,000. Yung down payment niya. So ibig sabihin sa cash flow diagram natin, so may inflow na 200 ay may inflow na since 1 million yung amount ng lupa ng lote. So nag-down siya ng 200, ibig sabihin meron pang 800,000 ang titira. Yun yung babayaran niya in 5 years. Ayan. So ibig sabihin yung amount natin, ang present worth natin dito at 0, that is equivalent to, so nag-down siya ng 200. So 1 million minus 200,000. So meron tayong natitirang 800,000. So inflow na 800,000. Okay, and then after 1 year, sabi dito, at the end of 1 year, nagbayad ulit siya ng 300,000. So 300,000 after 1 year. Sa third year, so at the end of 3 years, 400,000 naman yung binayaran niya. And ano yung fifth payment? Ano kay fifth year payment niya para lubusan niyang mabayaran lahat, yung 800,000 plus the interest. If the interest was 20%. Okay? So pag hindi sinabing compounded, kung anong compounding yan, ibig sabihin compounded annually yan. So assume natin na compounded annually siya. So that is also true sa succeeding topics natin or problems that you're going to solve. Pag hindi sinabi na compounded quarterly, compounded continuously, or compounded semi-annually and so on, that means it is compounded annually. Okay? So may 20% rate of interest siya na 20% no, per year compounded annually. So ang gagawin natin to solve for the fifth payment, yung fifth year payment natin, yung last payment niya para mabayaran yung lupa. Okay, ang gagawin natin, we're going to use the concept of equivalence. So that means we're going to transfer all of these cash flows to a certain focal point. So mamili tayo along the cash flow diagram which point. You can choose any point naman, no? So we will arrive at the same answer at anong point pa yung piliin natin. So let's try to choose yung present day point, yung present date natin, so yung 0 yung piliin natin. Okay, so transfer natin ano yung value ng 300,000 at the present date. So after 1 year magbabayad siya ng 300,000. So ano yung value niya at the present date? Ganun din yung 400,000, and what is the value of this amount at the present date, and ano yung value ng fifth amount at the present date. Okay, with 20% rate of interest compounded annually. So what would be our equation for this particular condition? Okay, so transfer natin lahat ng cash flows papunta dito sa present date. So P, so yung present amount, lahat ng mga ito, so isa-isahin natin i-transfer. Let's start with the 300,000 amount. So let's say since binayaran yan after 1 year, F1 na lang, F sub 1. So i-transfer natin papunta sa present date. So 1 plus I raised to negative n, since after 1 year yan, that is 1, no? Then plus, so nagbayad ulit siya after 3 years, so 400,000. Let's say 400,000 is f sub 3, 1 plus I, okay, raised to negative n in this case, plus ang sinasolve natin, ano yung kaya yung final amount na babayaran niya at the end of 5 years. So after 5 years, nag-bayad ulit siya, magkano yung babayaran niya after 5 years. Let's say f sub 5, 1 plus I raised to negative n. So lahat ng yan transfer natin sa present day value. Okay, so substitute natin yung mga given items sa problem. So P then is equal to F1 is 300,000. Wait lang. The present value is 800,000. Okay. So bakit 800,000 at hindi 1 million? O nagbayad siya ng down payment na 200,000. So kaltas natin yung 200,000 na down payment. So 800,000 na lang ang babayaran niya for the rest of 5 years. So i-compute natin. Okay. So 800,000 yung present or present worth ng lahat ng ito. It's equivalent to F1. F1 is saan yan? 300,000. Okay. 1 plus the interest is the same sa lahat ng taon. That is 20%. Ang laki 0.2. So n is negative 1 since after 1 year yan. Plus F3, yung payment niya on the third year, that is 400,000. 1 plus same interest rate, that is 20%. This is, so third year yan, let's raise to negative 3. Plus yung sinasolve natin na missing amount at the end of 5 years, F5 raised to negative 5. Okay, so we have one equation, one unknown, that is F5. So F5 is equal to, ito yung babayaran niya at the end of 5 years, medyo malaki, at 792,576 pesos. Okay, yan, malaki yung babayaran niya after 5 years. Kung ako sa inyo, bayaran nyo na lang cash ng 1 million. Okay, medyo malaki yung 20% na rate of interest ng lote. Okay, so ayan, so F5. Okay, so sir, paano kapag ibang point na i-consider natin? Okay, kasi we have considered yung focal point natin ay yung present day. Okay, maybe we can try another point along the cash flow diagram. Let's see, maybe we can choose ito na lang, yung end, yung 5th year. So kung 5th year yan, ang pipiliin natin na focal point natin, ibig sabihin i-transfer natin lahat ng cash flow na ito papunta dun sa future na yung after 5 years. So ano yung amount or value ng mga payments na ito after 5 years, yun yung gagawin natin. So let's try to do that para ma-compare natin yung result. They should have the same answer, ano? Okay, so our focal point is on the 5th year focal point or focal date natin. So i-solve natin yung future amount ng ito, 800,000, transfer natin in the future after 5 years. Pati yung 300,000, tapos yung 400,000. So same notation tayo. So the F5 is equal to, since we are solving for the value of the final payment at after 5 years, is equal to, let's say, yung present worth natin sa 0. Present date, meron tayong 800,000 na natitira, babayaran natin for the rest of the 5-year period. So transfer natin yung amount na yan papunta dun sa future after 5 years. So let's say P sub 0, yun yung present amount na. So 1 plus I raised to n, and here should be 5 years. Okay, minus yan, please try to look at the direction of the arrows, no? Kapag upward yung flow ng pera, okay, inflow yan, so positive. Kapag downwards, negative. So yung 300,000 natin is downward siya, so minus, so ito, ano yung future amount nito? So let's say present worth P1 na lang, P1, P sub 1 plus I, then yung 400,000, let's say P sub 3, 1 plus I raised to n. Okay, then substitute natin yung mga items, given items sa problem. So F5 is equal to present worth is 800,000, 1 plus interest is 20% in decimal form. This is 5 years, so from 0 hanggang dito, n natin is 5 years. Okay, minus 300,000 times 1 plus 20% raised to, so from year 1 to year 5, so 4 na taon yan, so raised to 4. And lastly, itong 400,000, so we have 100,000 times 1 plus 0.2, so from year 3 to year 5, so ilang years in between? 2 years, so raised to 2, n is equal to 2. And we can solve for the final payment, F sub 5, that should be the same dun sa nasolve natin kanina, 792,576 pesos. So ganun lang. So you can choose, try nyo na lang sa pag point 3 yung kinonsider nyo, or point 1, you should arrive with the same answer. So any point along the cash flow diagram can be considered, okay. So basta alam natin, for example, kung pinili nyo yung point 3, so future yan, itong 800,000 future worth niya punta sa point 3, pati yung 300,000 punta dito, so future. Pero kapag transfer mo yung F5, present worth niya, so pag ganun yung direction niya. So alam na ba't natin kung anong formula nga gamitin natin sa bawat term dun sa equation. Okay, so that is problem number 2, and that's the last problem sa lesson natin. Next would be continuous compounding and discrete payments. Okay, that would be isang separate video na lang. Medyo mahaba na pala to.